Okay, we're good. Well, welcome, guys. Thanks for joining us. Again, like Amy said, this is just kind of our time. If there's any questions you guys had, or hey, Shelly, maybe things that you are already putting into place that are working well, just kind of our time to chat. And I don't know about you guys, but I was starting to work on our seating chart for the lunchroom. I'm like, that's my job right now. And I'm like, yeah, that's trying to make it clear enough for the kids and our cafeteria folks, like to have a list because they're physically putting the lunches on the tables. That's something very new, and it's going to be crazy the first couple of days, I know. But anyway, I'll open it up to you guys first if there's anything. I don't know if you guys are back at work yet. Getting ready to gear up to go to work. How's everybody doing?
We go back next week in Campbell County.
Staff or kids, Monica?
Staff.
Staff,
and then the kids come back the following week.
Okay. Hey, Brittany. I want to introduce Brittany.
Sorry, I was slow. I accidentally clicked out of my link before it.
You're good. Hey. Brittany is our new school counselor here at the Rollins Elementary 2-5 building. So I am super stoked to have help in my building and get to share my kids with her. So
yeah. Hi, Brittany. Hi. Nice to meet everybody.
So Brittany has lots of questions, but we're just saying if anybody had any questions or thoughts about how things are going so far, anything like different or crazy going on, I don't know, just our time to chat.
So this is Wendy Watson in Laramie, and we are talking amongst ourselves as elementary counselors as how we're going to sanitize our office or how we're going to do individual counseling. So I wanted to hear some really great ideas that you all might have. I've thought about kids bobbing for toys out of a bucket of bleach water and, you know, putting things in individual Ziploc baggies for kids to work on from week to week. I've heard of people hanging clear shower curtains maybe in their offices for dividing, I don't know. Just what are some ideas other folks have come up with or know about?
I saw on the, I don't know how many of you are on the Facebook page, the elementary school counselor page. It's fantastic. If you're not on there, go find it. But I saw one counselor that put her curtains up over her bookshelves and put a stop sign on there that said, if you want something from here, ask Ms. whatever her name was, and she'll get it. This will help us all stop germs and keep each other safe. So I did that today. That was my big project today. I got a $5 clear shower curtain from Walmart, some 3M hooks, stuck it up there, cut it up the middle a little bit so that I can separate it because it covers two. My bookshelves are 48 inches total. And put that up with the stop sign. I used her words exactly and just printed on a red piece of cardstock. And the other thing she had that I thought was great was she had an empty bucket by her door with a note that said, did cards or fidgets or games that you've played put in here to be cleaned? And so I got a little bin to put by on my filing cabinet by my door that I'm going to put a sign on that says, anything and fidgets to be cleaned. I haven't thought about what I'm going to say, but that's going to be the to be cleaned off. I took all my stress balls out of the big bin and put them in with a lid and put them on the shelf behind the shower curtain, which broke my heart. And my fidgets, I took those off my table. The only fidgets I'm leaving on my table are the ones that I can wipe with a Clorox wipe right away after a kid leaves. And I was going to do the Ziploc bags for those ones that I've regularly that are going to be doing anything. So that's what I'm trying. And our building's giving us a bucket of water every day to wipe down our desks or our tables and chairs and that kind of thing.
Thanks, April.
Oh, I'm in Douglas, by the way. I have 4th and 5th graders. I'm at the upper elementary school.
I thought about doing something similar with the fidgets, like just have 2 or 3 on the table for them to choose which one they want to play with, but you know, maybe giving them a couple of choices. I don't know if I've enough maybe to do that through the day, and then at the end of the day to clean them for the next day. But yeah, picking out those ones that are easy to clean and that. But I was even thinking about, I love, one of my favorite things to do with kids, especially getting to know them, is play my Feelings Go Fish game, which is a card game. And I thought about, I could laminate those cards. I could laminate them and then just you know,
Wipe
it's like
them.
52 cards or
I was
whatever.
thinking the same
Wipe
thing.
them off. But
To go
I
through
thought
my
about that.
cards and laminate them.
Yeah.
What a headache. Or
My
just cover them with
monkeys.
packing tape.
Yeah. Packing tape might be quicker and easier. I don't know. But yeah, I just
I
think
also
about that.
put away my sand tray. That broke my heart too. Like I took all those toys, those are in a container, put them away because I'm not even going to mess with trying to sanitize that every time. I emptied my flower bin for my stress balls. Again, I'm like, all the things that are like my go-tos that are just great ways to talk to kids. Broke my heart, but I put them away for now, knowing it's not forever, it's just for now.
I know there was talk about sanitizing craft supplies or like leaving them in a Monday bin if they got it out on Monday and then not opening the bin until the next Monday. So by then maybe whatever germs there were dead.
I was just thinking that too about the timeline, because I was even thinking about like games for that purpose. Like, you know, all of our counseling games and stuff we use for the little kids all the time. Like how long we can not play that one again if we can't clean it.
Our school district, we have to like quarantine books that come back. And so the recommendation is like paper pages is 3 days, and like the glossy pages are 4 days. And so that's what the kids will do in their classrooms in the library is they'll use a book, it'll go into a bin, and then, you know, it will be accessible again in another 4 days. So that might be something to do with some of those fidgety kind of things, and maybe a little bit of Lysol on them or something. I took home all of my Legos and I washed them when COVID first happened, but I don't know. I just don't know if I want to wash everything every time kids come to my room. It you know, it'll be a big undertaking.
I'm worried mostly about ventilation, and my office has no windows and all the smells in the building pool in our little hallway where our offices are. So I'm like, well, if it smells cool, then what about the virus? So any thoughts on what you're using to sanitize the air? Are you going to be in your masks all day? Are you going to take kids outside? I thought about using a pop-up mosquito tent, you know, in the property in the school. Any other ideas?
Our building custodians have foggers that they're gonna fog rooms with and stuff. And they told me they can come fog my office anytime, and it like goes away within 10 minutes. And I was like, good to know. But I think my office will get fogged daily anyways. I think I might go the method of sanitize, Clorox, and pray.
I thought about taking them outside, like, well, it's nice, like, you know, just going outside for a walk or whatever. And I don't even know if that would, you know, if our principal would like that idea or not, but for certain kids. But my office, you can kind of see my space. I haven't taken everything home yet, and that makes me think of those Legos. I don't usually use the Legos, but I do have Legos under there. But I was even thinking, like, to literally measure, but like if I sat back here and the kids over on that side, you know, we've got some good space, and I have one little window in here. But yeah, my biggest thing is the whole connection with kids. Like in elementary school, the ones that are crying, the ones that don't want to be here, the ones that need a hug, that need like that physical, not, you know, like the consoling of certain kids. And I'm like, I feel so standoffish, like, sorry, I can't touch you or get close to you. Like that, to me, that just, you know, the message that sends kids, I don't know, to try to have to use our words and what little facial expression we have, right? You know, like you know, convey that we care about them and we're there for them and to support them without physically being able to like.
Suzanne, just wear your mask for WySCA.
I know, but you know, I need to crochet an extender because it's slightly too snug for me, and I'm like sucking it in all the time. Yeah.
I kind of feel like this makes me look like the Joker, honestly. Like it's slightly scary.
It is a little creepy.
It is. It's like,
But
I
I don't know about
smile
you.
big, but it's not that big, yo. Plus, it's on my chin.
And I don't know about you guys, if you have students you've dealt with before that need that like physical
Mhm.
escort into the building, you know, especially that first week coming back to school. Those that don't want to get out of the car, those that might run down, you know, back out the door. Like, I know we're going to have to be close to certain kids and putting our hands, you know, not putting our hands on kids, but you know what I mean? Like those kids that just need that walk with me, hold my hand down the hall, you know, like.
My thoughts been those kids that struggle with behavior management and need, you know, the, well, I'm going to destroy the room, you know, and they need that physical help to stop, you know, because I'm CPI trained. So it's like, you know, if I have to keep a kid from slamming his head against a wall, well, I'm going to have to physically get close. And so that's why my brain is going, okay. I think my mantra this summer being home with my 3-year-old was Jesus, take the wheel. That is my mantra for school. Just Jesus, take the wheel. Because I don't know.
I was thinking about those little guys that need a hand to hold. Maybe if we carried some hand sanitizer and both of us did a little squirt of hand sanitizer and then held hands, that might work. I wonder about like another change of clothes in case you do have to help a child, you know, be safe.
Monica, that makes me think of, I know we talked about toys and like things to clean and stuff, but this little guy is not the best to clean him, but I'm like, what if you hold Monkey's hand and I hold Monkey's hand and we walk together? Like maybe if there's something, like I know we even talked about cleaning off, we have a lot of the like carpeted like couch things throughout our building that kids sit on to read and stuff like that, and about wiping them off with Clorox wipes and stuff. But you know, we may have to get super creative and like, here.
Doesn't Febreze have an antimicrobial spray?
Oh man, I forget about the Lysol sprays and stuff because we haven't talked about sprays, but we've talked about like wipes and sanitizer and stuff like that. But that might be a good idea.
The other counselor and I, I'm hoping she'll get on here soon, but the other counselor and I were looking up like how to clean the sand tray, how to like disinfect it if we were going to pull it out. And it's basically spray with bleach water, mix it up, spray with bleach water again, mix it up, spray with bleach water again, mix it up, let it dry. I was like, oh, that's pretty simple, which, you know, I guess it's not too bad, but I don't feel like doing that 47 times a day.
What about
or
April?
a week.
What about, and I know there's talk about gloves and wearing gloves and stuff. What if we gave the kid a pair of gloves to wear just while they're playing with the sand tray and they don't touch anything else while they're playing with the sand tray?
That's actually a really good idea.
I hadn't even thought about that. Because I know they say like, well, if you wear gloves, but then you touch this and this and this, but if they're just sitting there with your sand
Just
tray.
touching the sand tray toys and the sand tray.
Yeah.
That's a really good idea, Suzanne. I hadn't thought of that.
Do they have little people disposable gloves?
Good question, because those are usually pretty big. I don't know. That's
Totally off topic, ladies, but a request from our board. While Amy texted and said, how the breakout's going, and I said, elementary has 9. And so when you all weren't looking, I took a picture with my phone and sent it to her. And she said, can you ask if we can take that screenshot and share it on our Facebook page as like, hey, elementary breakout. Would anybody care? If anyone that says like, I don't want it on there, I won't do it. Any protests? I won't name you in it. You really can't see our faces.
I know, it's like, what is I like that?
You're holding the monkey, actually. I look ridiculous because I'm focusing on taking the picture. But Suzanne's holding the monkey and, you know, Wendy's surrounded by puppy and snail, so that's fun. Okay, no protests? Sweet, thank you.
Wendy, how are you doing?
Which Wendy? There's two of us.
Oh, Wendy Tucker. We haven't heard from Wendy.
Hi, I am a new member to this group. I'm not a new school counselor, but I'm a new member, so I don't know any of you. I'm doing fine. I actually work at the district level. I'm working as a behavior interventionist right now, but you're always a school counselor, right? So you never leave that, even when you move on maybe to something different. I wanted to ask if any of you have guidance about small groups and classroom guidance, because it sounds like you were talking about how to work with individual counseling. And I was visiting with one of my school counselors today, and they've really been instructed to not do small groups or even classroom guidance, because they do not want kids from different grade levels or kids from different classes mixing, or having additional adults even in the classroom setting. So I'm wondering what your schools or your districts are talking about. And I'm at UNO1 in Evanston.
Yeah, thanks, Wendy. We are going into the classroom because we are needed in there. That's all I can say. We've already talked about that. Like, somebody needs to be in there checking on the kids. And I will wear mine personally. Like, I will wear my mask when I go in there, but I'm afraid the kids are going to hear me as well. And so I will just keep my 6-foot distance probably, unless, anybody tells me otherwise that I need to wear it all the time. And yeah, so we just feel like that's super important. And I added something to our agenda thing with resources about our school district actually was able to purchase a new SEL curriculum that's like online interactive things online and stuff. We can use it either in the class or virtually, so we're hoping to be able to use that. And small groups, I don't remember if Brittany and I were talking about this yet, but there is that thing about your classroom is kind of your family, and so mixing kids together. But I was under the impression that we should be able to do that if they're spaced and wearing their masks. So we share an empty classroom that we could take the kids into and spread them out in there. And I'll put it in the chat in a sec. It is like $2,000 for the whole school year, but I'm curious. I think we have some COVID money, and maybe that's how we got to pay for it. Because our principal is like, well, how often are you going to use it? When are you going to use it? How are you going to use it? And we're like, this, and this, and we can use it online. Kids can have access to get in there and do stuff, and it looks super cute. But anyway, we're not 100% sure about the small groups. I know they're still really important, but that is a really good question about that contact tracing and stuff like that. But as far as going into the classrooms, like I don't see how we can't not like have eyes and ears on those kids and stuff. So hopefully people can make that happen. That's just our school. So
Converse County, in my building, on my campus, between our intermediate, which is our 2-3 building, and my building next door to it, which is the 4-5, we have our grades and cohorts. And so the 2nd, 3rd grade building is easy because they're in a pod of 4 classes and 3 classes each. We have 8 2nd grade and 6 in the rest of the grades. And then in the 4th and 5th grade hallways, which aren't pods, they're just all on one side and they're all on the other side. So these 3 classes will go to lunch together. They will be outside. The outside recess part, all of our cohorts are colored. So they're color coordinated. So the playground will be divided into quadrants, and there'll be a colored cone so that, that day the red cohort will go over to this area, and then it'll rotate every day. And so when I do my lessons or when I do my pullouts for groups, I have the okay to do it. I'll be using an empty classroom. I use a conference room, but classroom I can spread them out more. Masks are required for all of us, and I have to pull them for cohorts. I cannot mix the cohort. So if I'm going to do a 4th grade group, they have to be the same cohort kids from those 3 classes only. And then obviously sanitize the room and get a different cohort for the next breakout time or whatever. And like Suzanne said, with the going in the classroom, it's needed. And so 6 feet, mask, sanitize, Lysol myself, fog me, I don't know.
We just got an email that suggested that we use a universal screener, like sabers to kind of check in to see how kids are doing.
We
Do
use
any
the
of
My
you
Sabers.
do any of you do minute meetings?
I did last year. I got one on Teachers Pay Teachers, and it was not as user friendly as I wanted it to be. It was really long, and it was not a minute. I mean, it was like 8 minutes per kid, not a minute. I have seen some on Teachers Pay Teachers, but I did the My Sabers with them last winter. I did not get to do a spring one. And I liked the My Sabers because you can compare it with what teachers say. The teachers has the Sabers. It's through FastBridge. It's the Social, Academic, Emotional Behavior Rating Scale is what it stands for. The Sabers teachers can do it based on the last month. How have they seen this child? And it's sometimes, always, never, often questions. So it's like a 1 to 4 scale. The hard thing with it when you look at the graph is some of them are reverse scored. So a 4 on some of them and almost always is a positive, and then almost always on others, like I'm anxious, almost always. That's a negative. That's a 0. But on the chart, it doesn't really show that. So what I had to do, and I've spent my summer doing, is going through it and, pulling the data out, going into an Excel sheet, aggregating it and looking at, doing that takes a couple extra steps, but I was able to figure out that 74% of my 4th graders, now 5th graders, were under the benchmark in emotional. The other problem is it's either above this number or below it. There's no yellow area really. So the cutoff scores are kind of like, I don't know how, what's the difference between a 16 and a 17? Because a 16 and below is at risk. A 17 isn't. When really I feel like that's like a yellow zone. So I made my own little yellow zone of these are kids that are on the bubble. But I was able to go through and look at that, and I can use some of that to pull my groups. And I'm using it for ramp data too. So I'm hoping to be able to compare it. It takes a little extra work, Mon, but the nice thing is it's on the computer. So virtual or on campus, you can do it. Teachers can do their whole class, and it's like a minute. It's not very long for each teacher at all. I had some teachers last year.
What grades, April?
We have it 2 through 8.
2 through 8.
K through 8. Because FastBridge also has a math and an ELA one that they can do that will pull out and aggregate. So many kids are struggling with this particular standard. The My Sabers doesn't do it that nicely, unfortunately. But if you put in a couple extra steps, you can get some really good data out of it. You just can't always look at that graph at face value. And it's nice to see how the teachers would compare the student versus how the student sees themselves. Because there's some really great questions on there for students like my peers. I get along with my peers, or my peers like me. I'm anxious. I'm depressed. I like to be alone. I'm engaged. I like to be in class. And so you can see the kids are I enjoy school. Never. I always have my materials. Well, yeah, I always have my stuff done, but I don't like being here. I'm not engaged. So you can see those kinds of red flags, and you can compare with the teacher. One kid says, yes, I'm always engaged. And the teacher goes, they're never engaged. Well, what are we missing here? Where's the gap? So I'm hoping this year.
Can I ask how many of you of the 9 present use a universal screener? Because we've always had a little bit of pushback. And so because even your shortest one at a couple minutes per students, and you do that a couple times a year, it's still time. But I see this as an opportunity to promote a universal screener because we may have less contact than what we would like, and it's a great way to identify students that may need. So I don't know if you want to just show a reaction button, but how many currently use a universal screener?
Going to.
I will tell you, it took us years to be able to get them to let us use the My Sabers everywhere. It was the first year I got to actually use it on all my students instead of just the ones that were on the radar. So we had our SPED counselor would use it for her kids all the time. And that's a really great way to kind of help get feedback from teachers on how they're doing in the classroom. But the gen ed, we didn't use it for everybody until just last year. And now with everything going on,
of a screener.
Right, exactly. And so the other counselor and I last year, we found this minute meeting and we're going in and doing this. And it was so time consuming. I ended up putting it into a Google form to have them do it on the computer. And it was a paper one. She went in and she was talking to every kid. And I looked at her third grade ones for this year, and I think she got one full class of 20 kids done. The rest of them had like maybe done. Because getting in there to do it with each kid, she'd go like, knock it off. Not you, the dog. Sorry. Your mom.
I think Sabres is free,
Piper,
right?
come here.
Sabres is free? Sabres is free?
No, I believe it's part of the Fast Bridge suite. We pay for the Fast Bridge, so it's the.
That's separate. That's separate. Fast
Mhm.
Bridge is separate.
It's part of it though, because we were paying for Sabres. We're like, well, why aren't we using this part too? Or we were paying for Fast Bridge, sorry. Why aren't we using
Fast
this
Bridge,
too? Yeah, but we finally were able to say, hey, let us use this. And my principal is really great about it. So this year we can use the first couple weeks to do the A math, because we don't do map anymore. So that's kind of our toothpick in the cake, as we say. So we do the A math, A reading, which is the ELA one, and then the My Sabres first thing. And then I want to do it again winter and then again in the spring. It's a lot of work on our side though to look at that data and get something out of it. I'll be honest about that one. So sorry, that was a really long explanation.
Thank you.
I know we're coming up to 5 o'clock, and I'd like to try to wrap up by 5-ish if we can, if that's okay with you guys. Is there anything else pressing?
Suzanne, can I share just for a moment?
Yes, yes, yes.
It's Shelley.
Hey, Shelly.
I wanted to talk about, I did ESY this summer for occupational therapy, not counseling, but it was similar in the respect of we did small groups, and what they did is have the teachers move between the groups rather than the students, which seemed to work really well. So they were paired off, and then we moved and we sanitized between our movement. And so a person doing their center would move, OT would come in, or whoever was coming into that next group. We did pull groups. We pulled small groups of students, 2 to 3. But kept them from the same classrooms, and so we weren't mixing the students. We also pulled individuals and sanitized in our therapy space between each group or individual student that we pulled, and then we're just kind of selective in what materials we had out and what things we could spray off and sanitize in between. We wore masks the whole time. Students wore masks the whole time. We sanitized each time we transitioned. All kids went out for recess. I saw that on the chat group, which is an interesting thing because here we're doing all this separation, and then they all went out to recess, and I'm kind of like, well, wait a minute, you know? Wasn't that a little bit moot that I didn't pull kids from different groups, but now they're hanging at recess? So that's something that definitely, I appreciate that question too, because it made me wonder a little bit. I was pretty anxious going into the ESY, but once I was in and saw the staff and the student follow through, I felt fairly confident. And we come up this Thursday on our 2 weeks out of the last group that ended. So if there was any fallout from that group, we would know here by the next couple days. Haven't heard anything from the district or anything in the community related to that yet. I went between schools. So like you said, we could be a super spreader. And so I was very cautious because I was serving a middle school and 2 elementary school programs. And I set it up so that I went to different ones on different days. I had different masks. And I also, at one point I had to go to 2 schools. I actually changed my shirt. You brought up the stuff about different clothing. And I will say that sometimes some of the kiddos are gonna grab your hand, and a lot of the students I work with have also physical disabilities. And so it happens, and they wiped off, I wiped off. We did the best we could, but some of that's gonna happen. And I was working K through 8 this summer. So, and some programs went 2, some went 3, and some went 4 weeks in length. We had separate bags in our therapy for each student with crayons, markers, pencils, and they put their names on them. We had separate bags for putty, Play-Doh, those kind of things, and they were marked for each student. And the only things that they would share were those bigger items like therapy balls or equipment, but then we would sanitize between sessions. And so, and it worked pretty well. We had to add a little time on, so it kind of cut short possibly a session, but it worked fairly well. So those were just some of the things that we did and utilized and that I saw popping up in the chat.
Thank you for that. It's great information that you've kind of been there, done that already. Awesome.
It was
And
a little nerve-wracking.
Yeah, Shelley, when did you, sorry, when did you say you finished that up? When did that end?
Our last day was the 30th of July.
Okay. And nothing, you haven't heard anything in your community since then, so.
No, in fact, I felt like we were the trial run, to be quite honest. And I didn't really think of that when I said I would do ESY, but truly I believe that we were. And so far I've not heard any health reports or students in the program or staff that was present. I'm guessing between high school, middle school, and there was 3 programs running in the elementaries, that there was probably 150, 60 kids involved in these programs.
I did summer school too, and we did summer schools at almost every building this year so that there wouldn't be such a big group. So I went to 6 different elementary schools. And so a lot of what I would just do is like check in with teachers or kids who said they needed to see me, go in the classroom, say hello. And I did pull a couple little groups, and the different buildings were very specific about which rooms I could use because they had to be sanitized. And I didn't let the kids play with anything or touch anything. We just would talk together, and then I would try to keep social distance. And I did do a little group of like 3 boys, and actually that was in Miss Casey's school. And I just asked them to, make sure we were sitting apart while we visited, make sure we were 6 feet apart. So, and we just finished on Friday, but we haven't heard, and the numbers were very, very small for each summer school. So we haven't heard of any cases here yet either, but, we still have another week or so before we will know for sure, I suppose.
Thanks, Monica. All right. Okay. Anything else before we sign off for the evening?
Thank you, ladies, for everything you're doing.
Thanks, guys.
We got this.
If you need
In spite of
anything,
everything, we're not alone.
we're all in it together.
We'll figure this out.
All right, we'll let you guys get going. Thanks for joining us again, and holler if you guys need anything before our next meeting in September. Okay?
Sounds
Thank
good.
you.
All right, thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye, everybody. Have a good start to your year.